Final Fantasy VII Rebirth might be Square Enix's best game they've ever put out. What's everybody, Moawe here, and I have been playing Final Fantasy Rebirth for about close to 20 hours. I just completed Chapter 5. I just got out of Junon. There's no spoilers in this video, but the game itself is really good. It is slow at the beginning, but I think it's understandable, especially going through the Nibelheim flashback and the things you do in Calm. But in terms of the game itself, the open worldness of it, which isn't really an open world, it's more of like an open zone, these big areas you get to do, and in that aspect of it being an open zone, it's really good. I like how there's the side stuff, the side activities aren't too boring, but at the same time, because it's a little more open, it's like, okay, you're not stuck to doing this dumb side quest that requires this guy, hey, I need this thing, go to across the map to go give it to another guy, and then you give it to the other guy, okay, wait, give this other thing, put it together, craft this thing, and do all this stuff, you know, all that bull crap that sometimes happens with side stuff. You can easily just hop out and move on to the next thing. I've been so far kind of just like the first open area, I did most of the side quests. I think I did all the side quests minus a couple other things, because how they have it is they don't only have the side quests, but they also have like different things, like the different hunts, you have different like landmark discoveries, you have different things. There's this one thing that's kind of interesting with the summoning material where, for example, in the grasslands, you can get Titan through Chadley. Yes, Chadley's back, and you can basically go to different spots in the map, connect it together with these different items that you're hitting, basically open up a little like cave, and from that you actually from doing those things, there's like 3 of them in total. You have to find 3 caves that you have to set up, and once you do that, it upgrades the material. So not only does it make the summoning fight, because just like in Remake you have to fight the summon to actually get it, it makes the fight a lot easier, but also maxes it out in terms of power. So stuff like that is really nice to see in terms of the side activity. In terms of Final Fantasy as a whole, I mean, OG Final Fantasy VII was probably one of my favorite games of all time, one of my favorite JRPGs for sure. Remake, I really enjoyed it. I know it gets a lot of flack because of where the story went and the little padding it has, but aside from its flaws, because understandable, it had padding, of course. I mean, it took a 5-hour section of the original game and stretched it out to a 30-hour experience, which from all intents and purposes did pretty well. I feel like a lot of people harp on the ending of Remake a little too hard and forget that for the most part it was pretty faithful. But aside from that, Rebirth, I'm really loving the battle system, the upgrades they did to it. They finally fixed the air combat. I mean, that was one thing that was a little annoying in Remake. It was just so hard to fight the flying enemies. I had to always switch to Barret. Then if I didn't have Barret, I would be lucky and hope I have Aerith. But still, they fixed a lot of the things with combat. The synergy stuff that they introduced in the Yuffie DLC is just upgraded to the max in this one. I'm still learning how to exactly do it. There's different shortcuts that you can do to make it faster. I'm still in the process of learning, getting used to the battle system as a whole, but the synergy attacks do really well. I like the dual text where you power it up. It's still much like the summons, which is a little bit of a complaint I still have with the battle system. Much like the summons, it's still kind of random. I mean, it's not as random as the summons. The summons just show up if, like, you know, sometimes if you stagger, sometimes it does. It's still a little bit random. But there's at least with the synergy, it's like as long as you do like the tag team attacks, like not those synergy attacks, kind of like if you do those offensive or defensive synergy skills, it powers up the bar. But the different characters, especially Red 13 for example, because he's new of course in this version of the game, and he's really speedy. Like that was the one thing I did not expect first impressions going from Red 13, especially because we never really played Red 13 outside of a turn-based game. Red 13 is really fun to play. Honestly, all the characters are really fun to play still. I'm not really switching as much. I'm still playing as Cloud. I'm still, again, because I'm still learning the battle system, I'm not like fully, like I haven't fully stuck to method yet. I'm still learning the ropes, especially 20 hours in. But yeah, I love how the exploration of the game really is. It's weird to say, but I feel like it's almost like Final Fantasy 15's open world exploration done right, because I feel like with Final Fantasy 15's, it was very much like, here's an open world. It's like Xenoblade where you can find like a level 80 enemy, and for some reason it doesn't give you enough EXP because of it if you beat it somehow, if you're like level 20. I don't know. I had that problem with a level 30 guy. Anyway, like it felt like a mishmash of things, and the open world exploration of it felt interesting. I mean, I did a good chunk of the side quests when I played it, and I enjoyed it for the most part, but I feel like it's giving me those vibes because it's almost like open world exploration done right. It's not too overbearing. It's not too like, you're not gonna run into a level 80 enemy randomly. Like, there's specific things you need to do, and the checklist that you have to do isn't that daunting. Like, there are towers that are like the Ubisoft towers, which I find a little weird, but at the same time, it's not very much like, oh, you need the towers open up, otherwise you can't navigate through the map. Like, it opens, the towers open up, it shows you where the new Fiend Hunt is, where the new Discovery Point, where maybe a Moawe Chocobo place is, any of that stuff, all the big stuff. But you can find those out yourself, and because it's not big of an area, it doesn't really feel necessary to really do it, aside from, you know, getting more world intel for Chadley and all that stuff. So I feel like they did it the right way if they were gonna do towers. Like, it's not mandatory per se, but at the same time, it's like not too daunting. At the exact time, there's only like, I think there was only like 5 in the first open area of the grass. But yeah, regardless though, I think Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is everything done right for Square Enix. I think it has the best battle system that a Final Fantasy's ever had. Now, like, refined to a max. I can't wait to play with the different characters. I can't wait to play with Kate Sith. I can't wait to play with Sid. I know he's not playable in this one. Vincent, all that stuff. So the story is a little bit like, it's hard to say. I'm very intrigued on how they're gonna tackle it, especially with it being Rebirth and the remake project and all that stuff. But more than anything, I think this team has really knocked it out of the park with this one, especially coming off of, like, it's only been 4 years, less than that, since the remake came out. And I remember all that stuff with the remake, how it like restarted development and stuff like that. But I don't count like the CC2 era really too much, because Square was in a weird bind, and I feel like post 2018 Square has really been on an uptick, and this is really showing because they were able to turn the game around in 4 years. And I expect it for even less the third one, because you got majority of the skeleton out, because in the third part of the game, you're not really, like, this is the bulk of the game, part 2, and part 3 really seems that, like, part 3 is like, you know, the finale, and you're revisiting all these areas. Now they have all these towns, and like, the other thing I like that I almost forgot to mention, but like, I like how you're not stuck doing the open world, the quote-unquote open zone every single time. It's like, you're done with the open zone, okay, we're gonna throw you to a little dungeon. Oh, you're done with the dungeon, which dungeon exploration, that's another thing. There's still some padding in this one, like, it's not as bad, I would say, as the remake, but there's still a little bit of padding. It's not too, like, in my opinion, it's not too bad. I didn't hate the padding in the original game, but still. But the dungeons, those are one things that I didn't really like. There were certain dungeons in remake, like the sewers or the haunted, what was it? The one ghost chapter. I'm trying to remember, like the little, like the train station one. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, that I didn't really enjoy too much. But this one, like the like, I remember the first dungeon, the Mithril Mines, I was like, I felt like it was gonna go long, and the second I thought that, it was over already. So there was that, and the whole exploration of it. The other thing I'm gonna throw in here is the parkour section. The climbing section is a little weird. You basically have these little like little sticking out rocks that are like glued to it, and you have to jump towards them, which is okay. I don't know, it just feels so stiff, like, in my opinion. Like, it's very much like, not to say it's an afterthought, it just didn't put a lot of time into, maybe, I don't know, but it does feel a little stiff, and does feel like it doesn't feel right. It's a little weird. But yeah, I'm really interested with the story. I'm hooked all the way in. I'm interested how they're gonna tackle it and everything. And yeah, just props to Square for putting out this game. I think, like, I liked 16 for what it was, but this is like unanimously, like, this is probably like Square's best work easily. One thing that's baiting on the internet with Rebirth so far is the graphics / the look and feel of the game. I've only really played I've played the game so far in performance mode, and I've really enjoyed that. I mean, the look of it's still a little weird. I mean, when the demo dropped, everybody was like, oh, what happened to the lighting? Oh my god. And yeah, the lighting's a little bit weird, and they kind of fixed it. I think there was a patch for the demo, I'm not sure. I'm sure that patch was part of the day one patch, but Yeah, the lighting is a little weird, especially like next to, like, you have this moment where if you go from like the outside into an inside of an area, let's say you're going inside like a building, all of a sudden it goes white essentially when you go, which is a nice, interesting like immersive feature to have when you're going outside. All that bright light hits you, it's funny, but like kind of weird how like that in between of like, you know, you're right in front of it, the light is kind of weird and the faces aren't really lit or anything. But outside of that, I haven't really been too much annoyed by performance mode. It runs at a solid 60 graphics though. This is probably the worst graphics mode I've seen in a game. It just looks so, like, it doesn't hit a solid 30, and even then it just doesn't look right. Like, the lighting's better, of course, but that's the thing. It's like performance and graphics both have their positives and negatives. I personally think that performance has more positives than negatives. And it's 60, and I feel like with action games it has to be 60. Like, I can't play an action game at 30. I could, but you know, if I'm forced to, if it's locked, but my preference is 60 for action games. But that's the weirdest thing. I hope in a patch they address it and they fix it up, because it doesn't look I wouldn't say it looks worse than remake. Like, I don't know, like in terms of base remake on the PS4, I would say it looks better than that for sure. But it doesn't look as good as Integrate. And Integrate was a solid 60 as well. So that's really weird. And there's a whole argument of like, oh, it's just too much for the PS5. Do we need a PS5 Pro? And I just don't think that's really an argument we need to entertain. I don't think we've hit the max limit of the PS5 or Series X. And honestly, it's a whole different discussion for another video. But I just personally think that Square just needs to put out a patch for this. And this can easily be alleviated. With that being said, comment down below, have you guys played Rebirth? What you think so far? Are you gonna play Rebirth if you haven't already? If you still haven't played it, I recommend doing the demo. It's free on PSN. Try it out, play the first chapter, see what you think, go from there. And like anyone who's like a little daunted by the whole thing, I mean, you technically don't have to play a remake now, because they give you a recap in the beginning. You could just jump into Rebirth. But in my opinion, I think the order should still be, you play the OG, maybe play Crisis Core, play Remake, then play Rebirth. And I feel like you're going to get the best experience doing that. Or at least, the very least, watch story recaps. But anyways, guys, this has been Moawe, signing out.